I remember chatting to my father many years ago, back in the 1970s, and he mentioned how he'd had, quote, unquote, a little bump in work that morning in the Wyndham Colliery in Ogmore Vale. He said that a stone had fallen on his hand when he was underground repairing an air door. Now, in his terms, a stone could be anything from the size of a ping pong ball or something which was much, much larger and could cause a really serious accident. In this instance, he described the stone as being about the size of a man's fist. It wasn't until about 4 or 5 weeks later that I actually got to see what he meant by a little bump, and the middle finger of his left hand had been split from palm to fingertip, to such an extent that in some places evidently the bone was showing, and it was only through the excellent work of the first aiders at the colliery and of course the people in Bridgend Hospital that they were able to save his finger. He had returned to work with 3 fingers of his left hand strapped together, but that was considered to be a small accident. And there were others that were much, much worse. His was one of many stories that were recounted to me when I was doing research into the history of coal mining in South Wales. But the history of coal mining, wherever it took place, was punctuated by hundreds and hundreds of accidents resulting in injuries and deaths. Horrendous occasions like the Albion Colliery explosion in Kilfynydd in 1894 or Senghenydd in 1913, and of course the heartbreak that was Aberfan in 1966. Alongside those well-known events, there were the countless small accidents that occurred on a daily basis. I interviewed James Minton when he was in his 90s in 1972, and he recalled his first day starting work in Blaenau.
On the first day, there was a fella named Jack Jones Nelly that side, and Jim Bevan this side. And every now and again they were tickling, you know. And I thought, the famous will play some trick on me, because they did play tricks when boys started, you know. Send them for the rubber wedge and all that damn nonsense. But I was quite keeping my ears open. And Dan, my brother, when he was going up the line, how he said, I noticed he was noticing us talking, he said, and I expect what he was thinking, he was going to play some game on him. I said, that was it, I was trying to watch out. Well, it wasn't that at all, he said. There's a man been killed in Stonespit at 9 o'clock that morning, he said. And we was trying to keep that from him, and we did. They even stopped all here, so, you know, not for me to know. They thought it'd be better to know it when it was up in the air.
It was often the underground haulage systems that accounted for many accidents. William Jones from Pontypool, who started work in 1903, remembered an accident that occurred when he was about 15 or 16.
I went assistant rider on the journey, and then I met my bad accident. Got pulled out of an empty journey, caught by the neck with a cut in a sheet that hauled me out of the tram and put me into the next tram with 4 men in it in the last tram. And we were about a mile underground, and being towed along with a big engine that was working on top of the pit at the Glen.
I remember so clearly the day I spent with William Harris in Bargoed in 1970, and he recalled an accident that happened to him in 1893. And in telling of his experience, he actually stripped to the waist to show me what had happened. A large area of his upper body was scarred and creased. And I think the best way I can explain it was that if you took some brown paper and scrunched up really tightly and then smoothed it out again, well, that's what his skin looked like.
I was 14 years old when I had the accident. Slipped, you know, you got to put your heel into a hole, see, to stop the drum. But I slipped over it, see, and down I went. And what stopped the drum was a boat in the tram caught in the post. Oh, goodness knows what I'd have finished. Well, I walked out or ran out. I got to the house. I was living close to the pit at that time, see. Father was in the carpenter shop, my brother Jim was in the blacksmith shop. I never stopped there, I went straight home. Mother was the target.
What was astonishing to me was that neither his father or brother were allowed to accompany him home, because there was the possibility that they may have been sacked for leaving work unofficially.
When I got home, they put the coat over my shoulders, but I was carrying my arm, see, in the other arm, see. Mother said, "What's the matter, Bill?" "I don't know, ma'am." And off I went. I fainted, loss of blood. I said to my mother, "Have the looking glass, ma'am, let's have a look." And she was holding the looking glass, and I looked in it. I could see my lung inside working. My mother very near went off.
Those were the days when there weren't any first aid facilities at the pit, and the kitchen table was often used as the operating bench.
I was on the table for 2.5 hours, stitching. He had to hunt for him, see. I'd been ripped so badly, see. Pulling a bit there and a bit here. 23 stitches in. Well, the doctor gave it up for stitching. He got a baby's napkin and he made a plaster. It was buttons, coal, part of my waistcoat, I don't know what it was altogether. And that was the cleverest doctor in South Wales at that time, Dr. Owen. He drank himself to death.
The large accidents are seared into our collective memories, but it was also those smaller, often unrecorded accidents that were very much part of daily life for miners, colliery workers and their families. Such was indeed the cost of coal.